There once was a boy who loved food with all his heart. The boy loved eating food. He loved watching food. He even loved reading about food. Imagine his surprise, then, when one fateful afternoon, by some unlikely mismatch of ingenious intention and cosmic accident, the boy discovered he could make food from scratch, with nothing but his own 2 hands.
Pull up with the flow that's mad, pull up with the flow that's crazy. Do it so good they're sad, yeah. Cut out the talk, just pay me. On my shop I say I'm Jan, yeah, that's amazing. Nice to meet you, man, yeah, gotta rush off, it's free.
Wasting no time, the boy dedicated himself to mastering the kitchen and her delicious mysteries. He wanted to make the best food the world had ever seen. So the boy saved his money and bought a clearance cutting board, a thrift store apron, a cheap pan, and an even cheaper pot. This was accompanied by a $332 hand-forged 8-inch Santoku-style chef's knife, which the boy loved more than anything, or anyone he'd ever loved before. At last the boy was ready to cook. There was just one tiny, insignificant problem. The boy was messy. Now, the boy had never considered himself a slob. He showered daily, for the most part, cleaned his room, usually, and brushed his teeth as often as required by any polite society. But something about the kitchen, especially a small apartment kitchen, like a pink-haired Tinder date with tattoos and a belly button ring, or one too many Asahi Super Dries, brought out the worst in the boy. Take a simple spaghetti dinner, for instance. No matter how hard he tried, the boy couldn't keep his onions on the cutting board, not when he was worried about the water boiling over on the stove and the garlic still waiting to be cut. Then there was the issue of tomatoes, which he hadn't quite figured out how to open, though not from lack of trying. The boy had intended to make the pasta itself from scratch, but he lost the handle of his pasta maker somewhere in the Vietnamese highlands last summer, the result of a catastrophic game of mahjong. And where was the basil? His forks were still dirty from lunch, the phone was ringing, he forgot to buy wine, the meatballs were still half-frozen bricks. The salad hadn't been started. Did he know his bread was burning? Perhaps, the boy decided, dreams were only for people who graduated from culinary school. Things were grim for the boy. Grim, that is, until the boy remembered a secret, a mystical religion from a distant land, taught to him by a foul-mouthed sage he'd never met, and never would. It was the wisdom tradition of Michelin-starred chefs and burger flippers alike, of battle-hardened line cooks, of alcoholic sauciers and doe-eyed garde-mangers. It was an old religion, a new religion. And its name was
Mise en place.
Mise en place is a French term, loosely translated as everything in its place. It describes the careful preparation of food and equipment one will need before they start cooking. This funny little phrase was all that separated a well-intentioned but ill-fated jumble of poorly cooked ingredients from a properly prepared meal, each course finished precisely when and how its maker intended. The boy promptly divided his cramped apartment kitchen into 4 distinct stations and set to work. The prep station went to the right of the sink, where the compost bucket and a clean towel were waiting. Salads and sides were assembled to the left. A tidy grid of pre-cut, pre-proportioned ingredients were placed within right hand's reach of the stove. The counter to the left of the stove was where the boy did his plating. The boy's special projects, making pasta from scratch or kneading dough for rosemary focaccia, required renting space from the 32-inch kitchen table, which was perfectly fine, considering these tasks were now completed hours before dinner time. As the boy began to practice this strange new religion, something wondrous began to happen. Far from being a burden, taking time to organize and plan his meals brought back a certain joy he'd forgotten in the chaos. Cooking was fun again. When the sun finally set on a long day of cooking, his feet sore from standing and his knife hand a little cramped, the boy readied his dining room for service. He pressed his best linen napkin and set out the silverware. Candles were lit. The wine was poured. Following a roasted beet and winter citrus salad, complete with toasted pecans and shallot vinaigrette, the main course was served. The boy was hungry, but he paused before digging in, taking a moment to savor the silence. It was hard work, this mise en place, but if the boy could say one thing, a word to the religion of line cooks and the gospel of the foul-mouthed sage, it was this:
Thanks.